So in this podcast, I wanted to push up some feedback, a couple of ideas regarding time stories. I made mention in one of my previous podcasts, this idea, the eternal question with board gaming. You like the game, you're willing to buy in. There's a couple of expansions out there, so if you really like the game, you can see the direction that that's going to go in, putting aside for a moment, if you're a completionist, the burden of that. And the ultimate question, will this game occupy playtime? Will it justify purchase? Will I get use out of it, either solo or with the gaming group? And the idea of a review, it's one thing to see the mechanics, but how does the game play out over time? And from that perspective of the player personality, the group personality, how does it fit in? And that's what I want to explore with Time Stories, because initially I was very, very intrigued with the concept behind this game. And in terms of the mechanics and the narrative concept, I think it just has it perfect on there. If you're looking for a cooperative deduction time travel type game, yet at the same time, the very strength of that is extremely limiting. So it requires some analysis to answer that question, is this something that you will get to play? So there are certain games that, obviously every board game offers an experience, but replayability is important in the experience in that you play through a game once. Let's look at Runebound, 2nd edition. Let's look at, Runebound 3rd edition is what I'm making my way through right now, so let's explore this as a contrast to Time Stories. Runebound 3rd edition has a bunch of expansions. We're looking just at the core. Essentially, there's 2 missions. I won't give away any spoilers. There's 2 missions with the game. One where you're going against a resurrected dragon, a dragon lord, and the second mission where you're taking on a necromancer who's spreading undead throughout the realm. It's standard fantasy. You're going in with a character, and you're going to try and level up. You're going to get some items. You're going to get some gold, and there's an end game where you fight the boss. Once you've fought each boss once or twice, you kind of know the narrative. You know where things are going to spawn. You know the adventure cards on there. You have an idea. So it's safe to say you've essentially played through the game. But then we explore it from the perspective of, okay, you've got, 6, 7, 8 base characters. So you get to go through the experience again, playing with the different characters. All right, you've done that. Now you run through the experience again from the perspective of, with each character, do I want to play it? Runebound does it interesting where you can win based on fighting, you can win based on exploring the realm and going on quests, or you can beat the game through social interactions on there. So let's play it all the way through there. So generally what we see, after a couple of plays, you're familiar with the story, but now it's like having different characters and seeing it from a different perspective. So there is a lot of replayability, even though it's very linear. So now we get to something like Time Stories. And so much of Time Stories, and I have to say the community does this very well, no spoilers on there. Absolutely. And I'm not going to give away any spoilers here with it, so you really don't have to worry about this podcast ruining anything for you. So Time Stories goes in what appears to be a similar experience. You have a quest. You're going to try and solve a mystery on there. And through the game, you're going to be jumping through points in time. It's not a completely linear run-through. The game makes the assumption that you will not complete it in one playthrough. You don't really die. You just kind of backtrack and reset time and get entered in on different points. So the idea is you might explore and get to a dead end and then use that knowledge for the next playthrough where I'm going to branch in a different direction. Or even though the game dead ended for a moment, it gave me a couple of clues. It gave me a couple of other things to figure out. So what you see is you only get one playthrough, but there are slightly different paths to get to the end of that. This leads to an experience in that once you've played each module 2 or 3, maybe 4 times and you've solved it, in theory, there's nothing else to see. Essentially, it's like a novel. You read the novel through 2 or 3 times, and you're done on there. So it is a consumable game. That's the significant difference in terms of replayability and how it stacks to other games. It's completely consumable. You've consumed it, and you're done. Now, certainly, this is not new in gaming. I mean, this is essentially the core 101 of role-playing games. If we're playing something like Dungeons and Dragons, which I love and is a great influence in my life, you're the players, I'm the dungeon master. We're sitting down to Rise of the Dragon Queen, a module or various adventures out there. When you run through that adventure the first time, you're kind of done. I mean, in D&D, you never replay an adventure. There might be a couple of instances where you're playing with a new group, so you're going to play the module again, and one player might have been through the module previously, but they're willing to sit through it again with a different character and not spoil things. But essentially, role-playing games are the ultimate consumables on there. And if we look at something like Dungeons and Dragons, yes, you can write up your own modules, but let's just stick to the published stuff. You drop $20, $30 for a module book, you play it, you're done. Now, that might last infinitely longer than Time Stories, but Time Stories is one of the first forays into the consumable game market on there. You have the core, you have a story, you play through it. What's interesting about it is I find it to be a perspective game and an amazing... I played it solo. I played some of the adventure modules solo, first time run through, and I played some of the adventure modules with a group. It excels at both. From a solo experience, it's really nice because you can sit down and as the story is revealed at your own pace, sit there and really kind of make decisions where what are we going to do? What decisions are we going to make? How does this play out? There's a couple of choices that I made that I was so sure of. I was positive about. And they led to a completely different part in the game. And I was like, wow, I really didn't see that progressing in that way, unfolding in that way. When you play it as a group game, I find it to excel because you're all working together as a team. And different people have different perspectives of what they see and what they interpret and how they want to move through the module. So as a cooperative game and full collaboration, I found it to be a very, very unique perspective on there. So playing through the module once you're done and you've seen it all, there isn't much replay at all. It's almost to the point where it's not really worth going through the module again. But is this a problem? Now, there's other modules out there. I believe there's 6 or 7 as of now. I have to go back and kind of look at my collection on there. Once you've played through that module, and that's not counting fan content, there is somewhat of a replayability. So from my perspective, there's a couple of modules that I really enjoy. I know them in and out. I will play them again with friends who have never played Time Stories before and have never played that module, and I will take a more passive role in it, where, yes, I know what's going to happen, but I won't offer any spoilers, and I'm almost just kind of seeing other people's perspectives and other people's choices on there and kind of getting a really interesting player profile, player perspective on there as we play through the game. So group replayability, every time, if it's going to be the game that you own that sits on your gaming shelf, there is some decent replayability in there. What sets it above as a one-and-done consumable game, in my opinion, is the stories are unique. The modules are unique, different periods in time and history. Now, you might personally prefer some more than others, but each one has been really well done and really interesting. The second aspect is that the components are top-notch. The artwork and the cards that you flip over to kind of reveal what you see, how things move, how things explore. In that moment, it delivers that one-off experience at a really, really high level on there. So that kind of elevates it a little bit further to that perspective. So how would that sit on your gaming shelf? If you're looking for something that you can purchase and play over and over and over again and explore every single little nuance in every character class and every point of view, Time Stories doesn't really have that. If you're looking for a really high-level, top-notch, consumable experience, solo or with a group, that is where Time Stories shines. With a secondary, somewhat replayability in terms of then bringing the module that you explored and you kind of know in and out, and now dropping it with a group and playing it with a group to see how they would push through it.